Yes, student, this is the module number 21 for the subject of strategic human resource management. What we will talk about in this module is about the changes to management practices. And the changes to management practices is as a result of what has been changed in the labor market or what is being changed or will be changed in the next few years. An increase in individualism and decrease in trade union memberships. Well, historically, since 1980s or 1990s, the field of strategic human resource management has changed dramatically. What has been changed? Why we had unions before? Where unions have gone? What was the purpose of union? Why we don't have unions anymore? Or why they are not at that number what we had in the past? One reason is that there are different forms of strategic human resource management practices that actually help employees to achieve those goals, what they were achieving through the union membership or through the unions. The purpose of unions is to raise the collective voice. And there was a belief that, or there is a still belief that, the collective voice is heard better than individual voice. So that's why employees are still allowed legally in Pakistan as well as all over the world to form a union or to become a part of any union. However, what is happening nowadays or what people are doing or employees are doing, we will talk about. So, an increase in individualism and decrease in trade union memberships. So, nowadays, people are not loyal to their employer up to that extent what they were in the past. It is increasing the attitude towards individualism. I talk with my employer and we settle on an account. If I like to continue or if I wish to continue work, I work, and otherwise, if I wish, I can leave my employer or change my employer. Greater concerns for individualism overall in the society has also dominant in the last 5-10 years. So some countries they are also having more individualism while collectivism in some countries like Pakistan or the other Asian countries including Japan, China, they are more collective societies. So these are the number of implications for the strategic human resource management. Second, a change in management practices is about growth in the US of so called high performance, high involvement, and high commitment work practices. Well, it's hard to explain in a very short period of time because we have dedicated a separate chapter for it. In brief, high performance, high commitment, and high involvement work practices emerged in the last 25 years. The one article emerged in the Harvard Business Review known as From Control to Commitment, written by Richard Walton, and it was published in 1985. This was a time when the perception about what is a human resource management changed, or that has made organizations to think about their human resource management. You want to control them through management practices, or you want to control them through their commitment towards organization. आप इसकी एग्जांपल ऐसे ऐसे ले लें, जैसे एक बच्चा है, अगर आप उसको ये कंट्रोल करते हैं कि आपने इतने घंटे पढ़ना है, you put a camera on it or you dedicate a teacher for him that you have to study 5 hours, or it is better अगर आप उसको ये बात समझा दें and he understands कि 5 घंटे या 4 घंटे पढ़ना मेरे मुस्तकबिल के लिए या मेरी फैमिली के लिए या मेरे कैरियर के लिए बेहतर है. Once you are committed with something, There is no need to monitor you or control you. So basically, that was the crux of that article. And you can go to the Harvard Business Review articles and you can find From Control to Commitment, uh, written by Richard Walton, that explains high commitment work practices. The crux was that organizations need to do some management practices that increase the commitment of employees towards the organization. Similarly, the other two terminologies, high performance work practices and high involvement work practices, are self explanatory. These terminologies explain what you want from your employees. So, there are some management practices that enhance the performance of employees. We call them high performance work practices. And this is a very dominant research area in the field of strategic human resource management. This emerged in the early 1990s, and the research in this area boosted up when Mark Husselett, written an article because of out of his PhD thesis, high performance work systems. So there is a consensus now, after 25 years in the field of strategic human resource management, that there are some management practices that can enhance performance of an individual in an organization and ultimately the organization itself. For example, you select the best talented employees of the organization. For example, you pay them the above average pay. So these are some of the high performance work practices or management practices. When we talk about high involvement work practices, they are different slightly than high performance and high commitment work practices. What we mean by high involvement, it refers to employee involvement and participation in organizational decision making. How you can enhance employee involvement and participation in work and organization through different HR practices. They are known as high involvement HR practices. Employee will be involved only when you offer or when you give them the power to make a decision, when you will reward them for those decisions, when they have the knowledge to make a decisions. So, in other words, employees will not be involved unless these conditions are not met by the organizations or created by the organizations. These practices are known as high involvement work practices. And finally, a general consensus that bundle of work and HR practices have greater impact than individual practices. Whether it is a high performance work practice, high involvement work practice, or high commitment work practices, they work best in bundles. For example, you hire the best employees, but you do not pay the above average pay. Will it work? Perhaps not. You have to offer the above average pay if you want to have the best skilled employees in your organization. So this is the third point, that you need to have a bundle of practices that synergistically impact on the total outcome of the high performance or high involvement or high commitment work practices. Thank you.